As the checkered flag waved over Willow Grove Speedway, nobody could believe their eyes. Olivia Grant, the mechanic's daughter they'd all ridiculed, was behind the wheel of a salvaged 1967 Mustang, edging past champion Connor Wilson's $200,000 race car to claim the regional championship 6 months earlier. She'd been just another grease-stained nobody scraping by in her father's failing garage, mocked for even suggesting she could compete with a junkyard car. She'd rebuilt herself. But today, as thousands of spectators rose to their feet in disbelief, she proved that sometimes the most unexpected victories come from those who were never given a chance to begin with a truth that would forever change the small town of Willow Grove and the life of a young woman who refused to stay in her lane. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed. Because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The morning light filtered through the dusty windows of Grant's Auto Repair, illuminating floating particles that danced in the air. Olivia Grant, her dark hair tied back in a practical ponytail, wiped sweat from her brow as she leaned deep into the engine compartment of a 2008 Ford F-150. Her hands moved with practiced precision, tracing the path of wires and hoses with the confidence of someone who had been doing this her entire life. "Hand me that 10mm socket, would you, Dad?" she called out, her voice echoing. In the cavernous garage, Warren Grant shuffled across the concrete floor, his once strong frame now slightly stooped after decades hunched over engines. He sifted through a worn toolbox, the lines on his weathered face deepening as he squinted. "Here, you go live," he said, placing the tool in her outstretched hand. "Mr. Wright called again, says he needs that truck by noon." Olivia nodded without looking up. "Tell him it'll be ready. Just needed a new alternator and some wiring work." Warren lingered, watching. His daughter work pride mingled with concern on his face. "You know, your mother would have been proud to see how good you've become at this." The mention of her mother made Olivia pause momentarily. Susan Grant had passed away 10 years ago after a battle with cancer, leaving behind a garage full of tools and a daughter who had inherited her determination. "I hope so," Olivia replied softly, tightening a bolt with more force than necessary. The bell above the door jangled, interrupting the moment. Olivia straightened up, wiping her hands on a rag, as Norman Wright, a longtime customer, entered. "Morning, Warren." Olivia. Norman nodded, his gaze immediately going to his truck. "Is she going to be ready on time? Just finishing up," Olivia assured him, closing the hood with a practiced thud. "Alternators replaced, and I checked the whole charging system while I was at it. Found some corroded wiring that needed replacing." Norman approached cautiously, as if afraid to get grease on his pristine button-up shirt. "And how much is that going to cost me?" Warren stepped forward, handing Norman an invoice. "Same price we quoted. You, the wiring works on the house." Olivia watched as Norman's eyebrows raised in surprise. It was a gesture they couldn't really afford. But customer loyalty was worth something in a town where business was increasingly going to Hopper Automotive, the gleaming dealership on the edge of town. "Well, I appreciate that," Norman said, reaching for his wallet. He paused as the garage's ancient television in the corner caught his attention. "You folks see the news about the big race series coming to town?" Both Grants turned toward the small TV. The local news was showing footage of Leonard Harper, the owner of Harper Automotive, shaking hands with racing officials. The caption read, "Willow Grove Speedway to host regional championship series. Prize money is $25. So it's 0." Norman continued, admiration clear in his voice. "That Harper fellow helped bring it here, even got his dealership sponsoring it. Says it'll put Willow Grove on the map." Warren scoffed softly. "More like put his business on the map." "Dad?" Olivia chided gently, though she shared his sentiment. Norman handed over a check. "All the hot shots will be racing. That Connor Wilson fellow who won 3 championships last year is already registered." He glanced around the half-empty garage. "Shame. You folks aren't involved. Could use the exposure." After Norman left with his truck, Olivia found herself staring at the now muted television, where footage showed race cars speeding around a track. Never understood the appeal. Warren remarked, organizing. "Tools, bunch of folks driving in circles," but Olivia wasn't listening. Her mind was calculating, planning. The garage had been struggling for months. Bills were piling up and customers were dwindling as Harper's flashy dealership and service center expanded. $25. Source 0, she murmured. Warren turned, frowning. What was that? The prize money, Olivia said louder now. That could save the garage. Warren laughed, then realized his daughter wasn't joking. Liv, you can't be serious. Those are professional drivers. With corporate sponsors and teams of mechanics, I know engines better than half those drivers. Olivia counted a familiar stubbornness setting her jaw. And I've been driving since I was 15. Driving and racing are completely different things. Warren argued, concern creeping into his voice. Not to mention you'd need a race car, which we definitely can't afford. Olivia fell silent, but her mind continued racing. Later that afternoon, as she worked alone on an oil change, she heard the familiar rumble of a tow truck outside Marvin Taylor, the owner of Taylor's salvage yard, and an old friend of her father's was dropping off a junked vehicle. Wiping her hands, she stepped outside just as Marvin was lowering a battered car onto their lot. Despite the dents and rust, Olivia immediately recognized the distinctive lines of a 1967 Ford Mustang. What's the story with this one? She asked, approaching Marvin as he completed the delivery paperwork. Insurance write-off. Marvin explained. Owner wrapped it around a tree engine block, still good though, and the frame isn't compromised. Thought, your dad might want it for parts. Olivia walked around the car slowly, her expert eye seeing beyond the damaged exterior to the potential underneath. How much? Marvin looked up in surprise. For the whole car. Your dad usually just buys specific parts. I'm asking for myself. Olivia clarified. How much? Marvin scratched his beard. Considering it needs a ton of work. 500. Olivia nodded, already mentally calculating the repairs needed. I'll take it. When Warren returned from running errands, he found Olivia, already working on the Mustang parts spread out methodically around her. What's all this? He asked, confusion evident. My race car. Olivia replied without looking up. Warren stared in disbelief. You're not really thinking of entering that race? I am. She confirmed, determination hardening her voice. And I'm going to win. Warren shook his head. Liv, be realistic. Even if you could get this running, which would be a miracle, you've never raced before. Olivia finally looked up, grease already streaking. Her cheek. Mom always said, Grant, don't back down from a challenge. The mention of Susan silenced Warren momentarily. This isn't just a challenge, Liv. It's our chance to save the garage. Olivia interrupted. The bank gave us 3 months, Dad. 3 months before they foreclosed. This prize money could change everything. Warren's shoulders sagged with the weight of a truth he'd been trying to shield her from. You heard about the notice? I pay the bills too, remember? Olivia stood up, wiping her hands. We're not giving up without a fight. 2 days later, Olivia was deep into the Mustang restoration when the bell jangled again. This time it wasn't a customer, but Julie Martin, waitress at the local diner and Olivia's childhood friend. So the rumors are true, Julie said. Surveying the disassembled car, you're really planning to race? Olivia emerged from under the chassis. News travels fast. Julie handed her a to-go cup of coffee. Honey, it's Willow Grove. I heard it from Betty at the salon, who heard it from Sheriff Johnson, who apparently saw you buying racing harnesses at the auto parts store yesterday. Olivia accepted the coffee gratefully. And what's the verdict from the town? Gossip. Julie hesitated. Mixed reviews. Some folks think it's brave, others. She trailed off. Think I'm crazy? Olivia finished for her. They're saying a woman mechanic with a junker car doesn't stand a chance against professional racers, Julie admitted. Reluctantly, Olivia took a long sip of coffee, the bitter liquid matching her mood. Well, they're welcome to place their bets against me, Julie, perched on a nearby stool. I'll put my money on you any day. But are you sure about this? Connor Wilson has corporate sponsors and a whole team. I have something better, Olivia replied confidently. I have decades of Grant family mechanical knowledge, and nothing to lose. The conversation was interrupted by the rumble of expensive engines through the open bay door. They watched as 3 modified race cars cruised slowly down Main Street, drawing attention from everyone on the sidewalk. In the lead was a gleaming red Chevrolet Camaro with Wilson Racing emblazoned on its side. Behind the wheel sat Connor Wilson himself, sunglasses hiding his eyes but not his smug expression as he surveyed the small town. The champion has arrived, Julie murmured. The procession stopped directly in front of Harper Automotive, where Leonard Harper stood waiting with a photographer from the local paper. As Connor stepped out of his car to shake Harper's hand, a small crowd gathered. Olivia wiped her hands and walked to the edge of the garage property for a better view. She could hear snippets of the impromptu press conference, Willow Grove is honored to host such distinguished races. Harper was saying, his silver hair catching the sunlight, and Harper Automotive is proud to be the primary sponsor of what promises to be an exciting championship series. Connor took the microphone next. I've raced all over the country, but there's something special about bringing racing to communities. Like this, I understand this is your first major racing event. Harper nodded. Indeed. We've upgraded the old speedway especially for this series. Well, Connor continued, flashing a practice smile for the camera. I hope the local talent won't be too disappointed when we professionals show them how it's done. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Olivia felt heat rising to her cheeks. Excuse me, she called out, stepping forward before Julie could stop her. What makes you think the local talent isn't up to the challenge? All heads turned toward her. Taking in her work clothes and grease-stained appearance, Connor lowered his sunglasses slightly, looking her up and down with undisguised amusement. No offense, Miss Grant, Olivia Grant. Miss Grant, continued smoothly. But there's a difference between changing oil and handling a race car at 130 mph. More laughter from the crowd. Harper looked uncomfortable at the interruption to his publicity moment. I suppose we'll find out at the qualifier. Next week, Olivia replied evenly, when I'll be racing. This announcement was met with stunned silence, followed by murmurs and a few derisive chuckles. Connor's smirk widened. You're entering the race in what exactly? A 1967 Ford Mustang, Olivia stated. Proudly now, the laughter was open and unmistakable. Even Harper couldn't suppress a smile. Well, Connor said, barely containing his amusement, that should be interesting. Best of luck, Miss Grant. As he turned back to the cameras, dismissing her, Olivia felt a surge of determination. Mr. Wilson, she called out, causing him to turn back reluctantly. Save your luck, you're going to need it more than I will. With that, she turned and walked back to her garage, ignoring the whispers that followed her. Julie hurried to catch up. Did you just publicly challenge the 3-time regional champion? Julie asked incredulously. Olivia picked up a wrench, her grip tighter than before. Looks like I did back in the garage. Warren had witnessed the entire exchange instead of the lecture Olivia expected. He simply asked, You sure about this, Liv? She nodded firmly. You sure of anything? Warren was quiet for a long moment, then reached for his toolbox. Well, this Mustang isn't going to rebuild itself, and if my daughter's racing, she's going to have the best damn car I can help her build. Olivia blinked back unexpected tears as her father rolled up his sleeves for the first time since announcing her plan. She felt a flicker of hope. She might be the underdog. But in Willow Grove, the Grants had always been known for one thing. They never backed down from a challenge, and this was one challenge Olivia Grant intended to win. Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The next morning, Olivia awoke before dawn, her body aching from hours spent working on the Mustang. She moved quietly through the small apartment above the garage, careful not to wake her father. In the kitchen, she found a notepad with Warren's familiar handwriting called Marvin. He's got some parts we might need back by noon. Olivia smiled at her father's renewed enthusiasm. After fixing herself a quick breakfast, she headed downstairs to continue working. The Mustang sat in the center bay, illuminated by overhead lights that highlighted both its potential and the enormous task ahead. She had just begun removing the damaged rear quarter panel when a sharp rap on the garage door startled her. The shop wasn't open for another hour, and few people in Willow Grove were early risers. We're closed, she called out, not looking up from her work. Door says you open at 8. A growly female voice responded. It's 8:05. Olivia turned to find an elderly woman standing at the entrance. She was small in stature, but carried herself with unmistakable authority. Silver hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and piercing blue eyes studied Olivia with interest. Can I help you? Olivia asked, setting down her tools. I'm looking for the girl who's planning to race a Mustang against Connor Wilson, the woman replied, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. She walked around the car, inspecting it with a critical eye. That would be me, Olivia confirmed, watching the stranger carefully. Olivia Grant. The woman nodded, still focused on the car. Hazel Cooper, most folks call me Hayes. She ran a weathered hand along the Mustang's dented fender. 1967. Goodyear. Something about the name sounded familiar to Olivia, but she couldn't place it. Did you need auto work done? Because as you can See, I'm a bit busy at the moment. Hayes chuckled. No, I'm not here as a customer. I'm here because I heard someone was finally going to challenge that pompous Wilson boy. She finally looked up at Olivia, and I wanted to see if she had any chance at. All in your verdict, Olivia asked. Crossing her arms defensively, Hayes pointed to the engine parts Olivia had meticulously arranged on a nearby workbench. You've got good organization that's promising, but this car needs more than just mechanical. Work to race, I know what I'm doing, Olivia insisted. Do you? Hayes questioned. Have you calculated the power-to-weight ratio you'll need? Have you considered suspension modifications for cornering at speed? What about fuel delivery under high G-forces? Olivia opened her mouth to respond, then closed it, realizing these were aspects she hadn't fully considered. That's what I thought, Hayes said not unkindly. You're a good mechanic, but racing is different, and you know this because, A smile crossed Hayes's face. Because I've done it 40 years ago, but some things don't change. Suddenly recognition dawned on Olivia. Wait, Hazel Cooper. The Hazel Cooper. The first woman to win at Willow Grove Speedway back in the 70s. Hayes gave a modest nod before they shut down the women's division, said it wasn't economically viable. She made air quotes with her fingers. Truth was, the men didn't like getting beat by women. Olivia's irritation transformed into curiosity. My dad used to mention, you said you could handle a car better than anyone he'd ever seen. Your dad's Warren Grant. When Olivia nodded, Hayes's expression softened. He was one of the few mechanics who'd work on my car without trying to tell me I didn't belong on the track. The garage door rattled open as Warren returned. Carrying a box of parts, he stopped short at the sight of Hayes. Well, I'll be damned, he said, setting down the box. Hazel Cooper, haven't seen you in what, 20 years? 23? Hayes corrected with a smile. Not since you helped me restore that Thunderbird. Warren turned to Olivia. Hayes here was the best damn driver this county ever produced. Until they pushed her out, Olivia added. Hayes waved a dismissive hand. Ancient history, but when I heard about your daughter's challenge, I had to come see for myself. She glanced again at the Mustang. She's got guts. Warren, I'll give her that, gets that from her mother, Warren said proudly. What she needs is guidance, Hayes replied, turning back to Olivia. You've got heart and you've got mechanical skills, but racing is a different beast altogether. Olivia considered this, then asked, would you be willing to teach me? Hayes raised an eyebrow. Teaching's not really my thing. Please. Olivia pressed. I need to win this race. Our garage depends on it. Warren looked between the two women, hope evident on his face. The bank's foreclosing Hayes 3 months from now. This place won't be ours anymore unless we can come up with the money. Hayes was quiet for a long moment, studying Olivia intently. Qualifiers are in 2 weeks. That's not much time. I'm a quick learner, Olivia assured her, and stubborn as a mule, I'd wager, Hayes added with a hint of a smile. All right, I'll help. You, but on one condition. Name it. You do exactly as I say. No questions asked, Hayes stated firmly. Racing isn't just about going fast. It's about precision strategy and knowing when to hold back. Olivia nodded eagerly. Deal, we start tomorrow, Hayes said, turning to leave 500 a.m. at my place. Bring work gloves and wear something you don't mind getting dirty. After Hayes departed, Warren looked at his daughter with a mixture of concern and pride. You sure about this? Liv, Hayes doesn't go easy on anyone, I'm sure. Olivia replied, determination setting her jaw. This is our chance, Dad. The next morning found Olivia pulling up to Hayes's property on the outskirts of town. The modest farmhouse was surrounded by an expansive yard that contained various outbuildings, and to Olivia's surprise, what appeared to be a dirt track carved into the land behind the house. Hayes emerged from the largest barn, wiping her hands on a rag. Right on time, good promptness matters in racing. She led Olivia into the barn, which turned out to be a well-equipped workshop. Various car parts hung from walls. Tools were meticulously organized, and in the center sat a covered vehicle. First lesson, Hayes announced, isn't about driving at all. It's about understanding your vehicle. She pulled the cover off to reveal a beautifully maintained 1965 Ford Mustang Fastback, painted a deep midnight blue. This was my baby, Hayes explained, running her hand lovingly over the hood. Won 17 races in her. Olivia circled the car in awe. She's beautiful and temperamental, Hayes added. Just like all the best things in life, she gestured for Olivia to follow her to a workbench where blueprints and diagrams were spread out. Before you ever sit behind that wheel, you need to understand exactly what happens when you push the pedal, turn the wheel, or shift gears for the next several hours. Hayes took Olivia through the intricacies of performance engineering, explaining modifications. She had never considered the discussion moved from weight distribution to aerodynamics to fuel systems specially designed for racing conditions. By midday, Olivia's head was spinning with new information. Hay finally seemed satisfied and handed her a bottle of water. "You've got the foundation," Parshi said approvingly. "Now let's talk about your car. What's your plan?" Olivia outlined her restoration strategy, incorporating the morning's lessons. Hayes nodded occasionally, interrupting with suggestions and corrections. "The suspension will be your biggest challenge." Hayes noted that your model wasn't built for the kind of cornering you'll need. "We'll have to get creative. I've been saving some parts from other projects," Olivia mentioned, "and Dad's reaching out to old contacts." "Good. You'll need every advantage," Hayes said, "because Connor Wilson doesn't just have talent, he has resources and a team behind him." "And what do I have?" Olivia asked, a slow smile spread across Hayes's weathered face. "You have me, and I've been waiting 40 years to see someone put that smug Harper dealership crowd in their place." That evening, Olivia returned to the garage exhausted but energized, her notebook filled with Hayes's instructions and diagrams. She found Warren working on the Mustang's engine block, which he'd mounted on a stand for easier access. "How'd it go with Hayes?" he asked, looking up from his work. "She's brilliant," Olivia replied, setting down her bag. "Tough but brilliant." Warren chuckled. "That sounds like Hayes. She giving you a hard time, just enough to make me better?" Olivia assured him she examined the engine work he'd completed. "This looks great, Dad. Thanks, got a visit while you were gone." Warren mentioned casually Leonard Harper himself. Olivia stiffened. "What did he want to express his concerns about your entry in the race?" Warren explained, mimicking Harper's formal tone, said he didn't want to see you get hurt or embarrassed. "How considerate of him," Olivia remarked sarcastically. "He also mentioned that if we were having financial difficulties, he'd be more than happy to discuss purchasing the garage." Warren added, anger seeping into his voice. "Said it would make a good satellite location for his service department." Olivia's jaw tightened. "So that's his game, use Connor to dominate the race, boost his dealership's profile, and swoop in to buy out the competition?" "Pretty much," Warren agreed. "I told him we weren't interested." "Good," Olivia said firmly. "Because after I win that race, Harper Automotive will be the last place anyone in Willow Grove takes their car the next morning." Olivia arrived at Hayes's farm to find a surprise waiting. The dirt track behind the house had been prepped, with orange cones set up in a specific pattern. "Today you learn to drive," Hayes announced, tossing Olivia a helmet. "Not that Sunday driving you do on public roads, real driving." "In your Mustang?" Olivia asked, eyeing the vintage vehicle parked nearby. Hayes snorted. "Not a chance in that." She pointed to an old Ford, said in that had seen better days. "You need to learn the principles before you earn the right to drive anything valuable for the next several hours." Hayes put Olivia through grueling exercises, slaloms, tight cornering, threshold, braking, and controlled slides time and again. Olivia found herself making mistakes, misjudging turns, or braking too late again. Hayes would call out after each error, and this time feel the weight transfer. "The car is telling you what it needs by late afternoon." Olivia's arms ached from wrestling with the wheel, but she was beginning to understand what Hayes meant. The car wasn't just a machine. It was a partner communicating through every vibration and shift in momentum. "One more run," Hayes instructed as the sun began to set. Put it all together, exhausted but determined. Olivia made her final circuit of the day. This time something clicked. She found herself anticipating the car's reactions, working with the physics rather than fighting against them. When she pulled to a stop in front of Hayes, the older woman's expression had transformed from critical to quietly impressed. "Not bad," Hayes admitted, the closest thing to praise Olivia had heard all day. "You might have a natural feel for this after all." Olivia couldn't suppress her grin. "It's like you said, the car tells you what it needs. You just have to listen." "Exactly," Hayes nodded approvingly. "Tomorrow we work on race strategy. For now, go home and rest. You've earned it." The following days fell into an intense rhythm. Mornings with Hayes learning, driving techniques and racing strategies, afternoons and evenings working on the Mustang with Warren. Word of Olivia's efforts had spread through town. Drawing mixed reactions, some locals stopped by to offer encouragement or parts they had lying around. Others simply came to gawk skepticism written plainly on their faces. One evening a week before the qualifier, Olivia was alone at the garage when a sleek sports car pulled up outside. Connor Wilson stepped out, dressed casually but expensively, his confident swagger unmistakable as he entered the shop. "Miss Grant," he greeted her with a thin smile. "I was driving by and thought I'd see how your project is coming along." Olivia straightened up from where she'd been working on the Mustang's wiring. "Mr. Wilson, what a surprise." Connor walked a slow circle around the Mustang, which was now taking shape. The body had been restored, the engine rebuilt and modified. It was far from the rusted wreck it had been just weeks ago. "I'm impressed," he admitted, though his tone suggested otherwise. "But you know, this is still just a street car, right? Not a race car, it will be," Olivia replied confidently. Connor leaned against a nearby workbench, crossing his arms. "You know, it's not too late to withdraw your entry. No one would think less of you. Is that why you're here, to convince me to drop out?" "I'm here to give you some friendly advice," Connor clarified. "Racing is dangerous, Miss Grant. People get hurt, sometimes seriously." Olivia held his gaze steadily. "Are you concerned for my safety? Or worried about your reputation if a woman in a restored Mustang gives you a run for your money?" Connor laughed, but there was an edge to it. "Look, I admire your spirit, really I do. But this isn't a movie where the underdog miraculously beats the professionals. This is real life." "Thanks for the reality check," Olivia said dryly. "But I'll take my chances." Connor's expression hardened slightly. "Harper mentioned your garage is having financial difficulties. That's a shame. Would be even worse if you wrecked this car. You've invested so much." And the implied threat wasn't lost on Olivia. "Are you always this concerned about your competitors? Or am I getting special treatment?" Connor pushed himself off the workbench, just looking out for a fellow racer. He headed toward the tartar but paused. "By the way, I saw you've been spending time with old Hazel Cooper. Interesting choice of mentor." "She knows what she's talking about," Olivia defended. "Oh, I don't doubt that," Connor replied. "But you should know she had her shot at the big leagues once. Sponsored deal. Professional team, the works. Then she choked in the qualifying race, crashed out and never recovered. Some people just aren't cut out for the pressure." He offered a final smile that didn't reach his eyes. "See you at the qualifier, Miss Grant." After he left, Olivia found her hands shaking with anger. She grabbed her phone and called Hayes. "Connor Wilson just paid me a visit," she said when Hayes answered. "Tried to intimidate me into withdrawing, mentioned something about you choking in a qualifying race." There was a long silence on the other end. "That was a long time ago," Hayes finally replied, her voice uncharacteristically subdued. "What happened?" Olivia pressed another pause. "Come over tomorrow morning, earlier than usual. There's something I need to show you." The next day, Olivia arrived at Hayes's farm, just as the first hints of dawn colored the sky. She found her mentor in the workshop, a dusty cardboard box open on the table. "You asked about what happened," Hayes said without preamble. Pulling out yellowed newspaper clippings and photographs, "This is what happened." Olivia examined the materials articles about Hayes's early racing career, her groundbreaking wins, and finally coverage of a major qualifying race in Charleston. The headline read, "Local female racer crashes out of national qualifier. What Wilson didn't tell you," Hayes continued, "was that my bra line was cut." Olivia looked up in shock. "What?" Hayes nodded grimly. "Never could prove it, but I knew. I checked that car myself before the race. Everything was perfect. Did you have any idea who might have done it?" "I had my suspicions," Hayes replied. "There was a lot of money riding on that race and a lot of people who didn't want to see a woman advance to the national circuit." She sighed heavily, but without proof. "Accusations would have just made me look like a sore loser." "So you walked away," Olivia concluded quietly. "I had to." Hayes acknowledged the crash ruined my reputation and my knee. By the time I recovered physically, the sponsors had moved on. The moment was gone. She fixed Olivia with an intense gaze. "The reason I'm telling you this is because you need to be careful. Racing isn't just about skill. It's about the people around you, the money involved, the reputations at stake. You think Connor or Harper might try something similar. I think you should check your car thoroughly before the qualifier, Hayes advised, and I think you should be prepared for the fact that not everyone plays fair. Olivia absorbed this sobering information. Thank you for telling me, and I'm sorry about what happened to you. Hayes's expression softened slightly. Don't be sorry, be smart, and most importantly, be faster than them. As the day of the qualifier approached, Olivia felt the weight of expectation growing. The Mustang was nearly ready, transformed from junkyard scrap to a gleaming blue racing machine. Warren had worked tirelessly alongside her, his expertise proving invaluable the evening before the qualifier. Olivia took the Mustang for a final test drive on an unused country road. The engine responded beautifully, the suspension holding a firm through turns. Hayes's lessons echoed in her mind as she put the car through its paces, feeling the perfect harmony between machine and driver. When she returned to the garage, she found Warren waiting with a small package. Got you something? He said, handing it to her. For tomorrow? Inside was a racing jacket, dark blue, with Grant Racing embroidered across the back in silver thread. Dad, it's perfect, she said, running her fingers over the stitching. Your mother helped design that logo years ago, Warren explained. We always thought we might start a racing team someday, but life had other plans. Olivia hugged him tightly. Thank you. Warren cleared his throat, emotion making his voice rough. We're proud of you, Liv, no matter what happens tomorrow. Olivia nodded against his shoulder. I won't let you down. As night fell over Willow Grove, the Mustang stood ready in the garage, meticulously checked and double-checked. Tomorrow would bring the qualifier, and with it Olivia's first real test. The whispers and doubts of the town, the smugness of Connor Wilson, the financial pressure of the bank's deadline, all of it would come to a head on the track. But for tonight, in the quiet of the garage her family had built, Olivia felt a strange sense of peace. Win or lose, she was doing something that mattered. She was fighting for her family's legacy, and in the process perhaps creating one of her own. The qualifier day dawned clear and bright, the kind of perfect spring morning that usually lifted Olivia's spirits today. However, her stomach churned with nervous energy as she drove the Mustang toward Willow Grove Speedway. Warren following in his pickup truck with their tools and spare parts. The once neglected local track had been transformed. New grandstands gleamed in the morning sun, and the freshly paved surface looked smooth. And inviting Harper Automotive banners hung everywhere, along with advertisements for the championship series that would follow the day's qualifiers. When Olivia pulled into the competitors' area, heads turned. The Mustang's engine had a distinctive rumble that commanded attention. She parked in her assigned spot and climbed out immediately, noticing the stark contrast between her operation and the others. While she had Warren and a toolbox, most competitors had arrived with trailers, teams of mechanics and professional equipment. Connor Wilson's setup was particularly impressive, a large trailer emblazoned with his sponsor's logos, a team in matching uniforms, and a cordoned-off area where his red Camaro sat under an awning. Quite the spectacle, isn't it? Hayes's voice came from behind her. The older woman surveyed the scene with a critical eye. All these fancy setups and expensive sponsors. She patted the Mustang's fender. Good thing races are won on the track, not in the pit area. Olivia smiled gratefully. Thanks for coming, wouldn't miss it, Hayes replied. Have you registered yet? Warren approached with their paperwork, just about to their taking sign-ins at the main office. As they walked toward the registration area, Olivia noticed people pointing and whispering. Word about the mechanic's daughter had spread throughout Willow Grove and neighboring communities. Whether they were rooting for her or against her remained to be seen. At the registration desk, a bored-looking official barely glanced up as she approached. Name and vehicle: Olivia Grant, 1967 Ford Mustang. This made him look up, recognition dawning. You're the local entry, the one everyone's talking about. That's me, Olivia confirmed, sliding her paperwork across the desk. The official examined her entry form with sudden interest. You know, this is a serious competition, right? These guys race professionally. I'm aware, Olivia replied coolly. Is there a problem with my registration? Before he could answer, Leonard Harper appeared, his silver hair perfectly styled, his casual attire clearly expensive. Miss Grant, he greeted with practice charm. I'm glad you decided to join us today. He turned to the official. Is everything in order with Miss Grant's registration? Just reviewing the paperwork, Mr. Harper, the official responded, straightening in his chair. Excellent. We want to make sure all our local talent gets a fair chance, Harper said. Smoothly to Olivia, he added, "I must say I admire your spirit. It takes courage to enter a competition of this caliber, our skill," Hayes interjected, stepping forward. "Sometimes it just takes skill." Harper's smile faltered slightly as he recognized, "Hayes, Miss Cooper, it's been a long time, not long enough." Leonard Hayes replied with a tight smile. An awkward silence followed, broken when the official handed Olivia her participant badge and vehicle number. "Technical inspection is in 30 minutes, he informed her. Track opens for practice laps 15 minutes after inspection clears." As they walked away, Olivia gave Hayes a questioning look. "You and Harper have history." "You could say that," Hayes responded cryptically. "Let's just say he hasn't always been the town's golden boy. There was a time when he was just a hungry young businessman willing to do whatever it took to get ahead back at their pit area." Warren was already checking the Mustang systems one final time. "Everything looks good," he reported. "Oil pressure is perfect. Fuel mixture is dialed in. Tire pressure set for qualifying. Remember what we discussed?" Hayes instructed Olivia as they waited for the technical inspector in qualifying. "You're not racing other cars, you're racing the clock, clean lines, consistent speed, and hit your marks. Save the aggressive moves for the main event." When the inspector arrived, his skepticism was evident as he circled the Mustang. He checked every safety feature meticulously, seeming almost disappointed when he couldn't find any violations. Finally, he signed off on the inspection form with a reluctant nod. "You're cleared to run," he said, "but I'll be watching closely." As Olivia prepared for practice laps, she noticed Dylan Evans Connors, young mechanic, watching her from a distance, unlike others in Connors' team, who openly smirked at her efforts. Dylan's expression was one of genuine curiosity when he realized she'd noticed him. He quickly turned away and busied himself with Connors' car. The loudspeaker crackled to life. "Practice session beginning in 5 minutes. All qualified drivers to staging area." Olivia pulled on her helmet, the weight of it suddenly making everything feel real. This wasn't just restoring a car or practicing on Hayes's dirt track. This was actually happening. "You've got this," Warren assured her, giving her shoulder a firm squeeze. "Remember," Hayes added, "first practice is about learning the track. Don't push too hard yet." Olivia nodded, sliding into the driver's seat. The interior of the Mustang was stripped down for racing. No unnecessary weight, just the essentials. She fastened her harness and started the engine, feeling the familiar vibration that had become a comfort over the past weeks. As she drove to the staging area, she found herself lined up behind several other cars, including Connor's Camaro. Through her windshield, she could see him in his rearview mirror, watching her with a mixture of amusement and condescension. One by one, cars were released onto the track for their practice laps. When Olivia's turn came, she took a deep breath and accelerated out of the pit lane, feeling the Mustang respond eagerly to her touch. The Willow Grove Speedway was a 3-4-mile oval, with banked turns, simple in design, but requiring precision to navigate at speed. Olivia took her first lap conservatively, getting a feel for the surface and the banking. On her second lap, she began to push harder. Finding the racing line Hayes had described, the Mustang handled beautifully, all their modifications working in harmony. By her fourth lap, Olivia was fully in the zone, the world outside the track fading away as she focused solely on the perfect line through each turn. When she returned to the pit area, both Warren and Hayes wore broad smiles. "How'd it feel?" Warren asked as she climbed out. "Amazing," Olivia admitted, unable to contain her own smile. "She's running perfectly." "Your lines were good," Hayes noted, "but you're still hesitating slightly at turn entry. Trust you're breaking in points and carry more speed through the apex." Olivia nodded, absorbing the feedback nearby. She noticed Connor watching them, his expression inscrutable as he conversed with Leonard Harper. The qualifier format was straightforward. Each driver would get 2 timed laps, with their fastest lap determining their starting position for tomorrow's first heat race. Only the top 12 qualifiers would advance as various drivers took their qualifying runs. Olivia studied their techniques, noting who took which lines and where they seemed to find extra speed. When Connor's turn came, his Camaro screamed around the track with practice precision, setting a time that put him firmly at the top of the leaderboard. "He's good," Olivia acknowledged as the announcement of his time drew appreciative murmurs from the growing crowd. "He's experienced," Hayes corrected. "There's a difference. Experience can be overcome with the right strategy." Finally, Olivia's name was Called as she walked back to the Mustang, she noticed more spectators had arrived, many from town. Julie was there with several other locals holding a hastily made go. Olivia sighed. It was touching, but also added to the pressure block. It all out. Hayes advised, seeming to read her thoughts. It's just you and the track now with those words in mind. Olivia pulled on her helmet and strapped in the familiar surroundings of the Mustang's interior, calmed her nerves. This car, which she knew inside and out, had become an extension of herself. The starter waved her onto the track for her warm-up lap. Olivia used this time to get her tires up to temperature, weaving slightly, to distribute heat evenly. As she approached the start-finish line, she took a final deep breath. The green flag dropped. Olivia launched into her first qualifying lap, pushing harder than she had during practice. The Mustang responded beautifully. Hugging the track through the first turn, she hit every mark Hayes had taught, her carrying speed through the corners while maintaining precise control. As she crossed the line to complete her first lap, the announcer's voice came over the speakers. That's a solid opening lap for our local entrant, Olivia Grant. Putting her provisionally in 8th position. 8th would be enough to qualify, but Olivia knew she could do better for her second lap. She pushed even harder, braking later and accelerating earlier out of each turn. The Mustang's engine roared as she opened it up on the backstretch, the speedometer climbing past 120 mph. Coming into the final turn, she felt the rear end begin to slide instead of fighting it. She used the technique Hayes had drilled into her, a touch of opposite lock on the steering wheel and careful throttle control to maintain her line through the drift. The crowd rose to their feet as the blue Mustang slid dramatically through the final turn, then straightened out for the dash to the finish line. Olivia crossed the line and immediately looked to the scoreboard. 5th place. A cheer went up from the local contingent in the stands. Olivia felt a rush of elation as she completed her cool-down lap and returned to the pit area where Warren and Hayes waited with broad smiles. 5th. Warren exclaimed as she climbed out. That's better than we hoped for. Your second lap was nearly perfect. Hayes praised, a rare note of enthusiasm in her voice. That recovery in turn 4 textbook. As Olivia removed her helmet, she couldn't help but notice the changed expressions around her. The smirks and dismissive looks had been replaced by surprise and, in some cases, grudging respect. She had proven she belonged on that track. Even Connor seemed taken aback when their eyes met across the pit area. His usual smug expression was replaced by something closer to genuine curiosity. He gave her a slight nod before turning back to his team. Leonard Harper approached his camera, ready smile firmly in place. Impressive performance, Miss Grant. 5th place. Who would have thought I would have? Olivia replied evenly. Harper chuckled indeed. Well, you've certainly made tomorrow's heat race more interesting. He glanced at her car. That Mustang of yours has quite a story. Local girl salvages. Junkyard car to race against professionals. The press will eat it up. Isn't that why you're here? Leonard Hayes asked. Looking for a human interest angle to promote your dealership. Harper's smile tightened. I'm simply congratulating a surprising qualifier. Hazel, no need for hostility. No hostility. Hayes assured him with a smile that suggested otherwise, just wondering about your sudden interest in Olivia's success. Harper glanced between the two women. Well, I should check on the other competitors. Good luck tomorrow. Miss Grant, you've earned your spot. As Harper walked away, Olivia turned to Hayes. What was that about? Just reminding Leonard that I'm watching him. Hayes replied cryptically. Never trust a man who profits whether you win or lose. The rest of the day passed in a blur of congratulations from locals and final preparations for tomorrow's heat race. As the sun began to set, most teams packed up and headed out, planning to return early the next morning. Warren loaded their equipment into his truck while Olivia prepared to drive the Mustang back to the garage. You did good today, Liv, he said, pride evident in his voice. Your mom would have loved to see it. Olivia smiled at the mention of her mother. Thanks, Dad. As they were about to leave, Dylan Evans approached hesitantly up close. He looked younger than Olivia had initially thought, barely in his mid-20s. Excuse me, Miss Grant. Excuse me, miss. He called out. Olivia turned, surprised. Yes? Dylan glanced around nervously as if worried about being seen talking to her. I just wanted to say that was some impressive driving. The way you handled that slide in turn 4 was incredible. Thank you, Olivia replied, curious about his approach. I also wanted to He hesitated, lowering his voice. To warn you to be careful, some of the guys weren't happy about you qualifying so high. I overheard some talk that didn't sound good. Olivia's guard went up immediately. What kind of talk? Nothing specific, Dylan admitted, just comments about how it would be a shame if your car had problems tomorrow. He shook his head. It's probably just talk, but I thought you should know. I appreciate the warning, Olivia said sincerely. Why tell me this though? You work for Connor? Dylan shrugged. I work on cars because I love them. Not to help someone cheat. What you've done with that Mustang is amazing. He glanced over his shoulder. I should go. Good luck tomorrow. As Dylan hurried away, Hayes approached, having overheard part of the conversation. What was that about Olivia? Recounted Dylan's warning, concern evident in her voice. Hayes's expression hardened. History repeating itself. She muttered, All right, change of plans. The Mustang isn't going back to your garage tonight. Where will it go? Warren asked. My place, Hayes decided. No one will expect it there, and I've got security systems that would make Fort Knox jealous. When Olivia and Warren looked surprised, she added, Let's just say after what happened to me, I developed a healthy paranoia that night, with the Mustang safely locked in Hayes's workshop. Olivia tried to sleep but found herself too keyed up from the day's events. She sat at her kitchen table reviewing Hayes's notes on tomorrow's race strategy. Her phone buzzed with a text from Julie. Whole town's talking about you. Everyone at the diner saying they'll be at the track tomorrow. You're officially Willow Grove's hometown hero. The message brought a smile to Olivia's face, but also a wave of pressure. She hadn't realized how much her challenge had resonated with the townspeople. She wasn't just racing for herself and her father anymore. She was racing for a community that had long lived in the shadow of Harper Automotive's influence. As she finally drifted off to sleep, Olivia's dreams were filled with roaring engines and checkered flags in her mind. She ran through every turn of the track, visualizing the perfect race. Tomorrow would be more than a heat race. It would be her chance to prove that sometimes the underdog's bite is worse than their bark. And in a small town like Willow Grove, where everyone loves a good story, Olivia Grant was writing one with every lap she drove. Olivia awoke before her alarm. The first rays of dawn barely visible through her bedroom window. Race. The thought sent a flutter of butterflies through her stomach as she slipped out of bed. She found Warren already in the kitchen, nursing a cup of coffee, his expression a mixture of anxiety and pride. Couldn't sleep either, huh? She asked. Pouring herself a cup, Warren shook his head. Too much on my mind? He slid a folded newspaper across the table. You made the front page. Olivia picked up the Willow Grove Gazette. The headline read, Local mechanic's daughter stuns racing community with 5th place qualifying run. Beneath it was a photo of her sliding the Mustang through the final turn, the car perfectly balanced, on the edge of control. Guess we're really doing this, she murmured, scanning the article. Having second thoughts? Warren asked carefully. Olivia looked up, determination replacing nervousness. Not a chance. They arrived at Hayes's property as the sun cleared the horizon. The older woman was already in her workshop doing a final inspection of the Mustang's sleep. Well? Hayes asked, not looking up from her work. Well enough, Olivia replied, setting down her bag. How's she looking? Perfect, Hayes confirmed. I stayed up most of the night going over every inch. If anyone tried to get to her, they'd have had to go through me and my shotgun first. Warren chuckled. Remind me never to get on your bad side, Hayes. The three of them worked together to load the Mustang onto Warren's trailer, securing it carefully for the short drive to the speedway. As they finished, Olivia noticed Hayes seemed unusually pensive. Everything okay? She asked Hayes, hesitated before answering. Today is going to be different from yesterday. Qualifying is one thing, but heat races, they get physical. Those boys aren't going to just let you pass them. Some might even try to put you into the wall if they get the chance. I'll be careful. Olivia promised being careful isn't enough. Hayes insisted you need to be aggressive when it counts. Establish early that you won't be pushed around. Racing has a way of sorting out who's got the nerve and who doesn't. When they arrived at Willow Grove Speedway, the atmosphere had transformed overnight. What had been a modest gathering for qualifiers was now a full-blown event, with packed grandstands and a festival-like Atmosphere in the parking areas. Harper Automotive had set up displays showing their latest models, and food vendors lined the entrance as Warren pulled their trailer into the competitors' area. Olivia was shocked to see a small crowd waiting. Many holding handmade signs with her name. Julie pushed through to greet her. "Can you believe this turnout?" Julie exclaimed, hugging Olivia tightly. "Half the town is here to see you race." The realization hit Olivia with unexpected force. These people were counting on her. She spotted Norman Wright, their longtime customer, proudly wearing a t-shirt with Team Grant scrolled across it in marker. Nearby, several of her father's friends from the auto parts store were helping set up a canopy over their pit area. Word spread fast. Warren commented, clearly moved by the show of support. Small towns. Hayes remarked with a knowing smile. Nothing unites people like an underdog story. As Olivia prepared for the morning's practice session, Leonard Harper's voice came over the public address system, welcoming everyone to the Willow Grove Championship Series. She half listened as she checked tire pressures, more focused on her pre-race routine than Harper's promotional speech. "And I'd like to recognize all our qualifying drivers," Harper continued, "especially our local entrant Olivia Grant, whose remarkable story has captured the community's imagination." A cheer went up from the crowd, causing Olivia to glance up in surprise. Harper was laying it on thick, clearly recognizing the marketing value of her presence in the race. She caught Hayes' eye, and the older woman gave a subtle headshake as if to say, "Don't let it get to you." Practice went smoothly. The Mustang felt even better than the day before, responding crisply to Olivia's inputs. As she pulled back into the pit area, she noticed Connor watching her intently, his usual swagger replaced by focused calculation. "He's worried," Hayes observed, following Olivia's gaze. "Your times in practice were close to his. Too close for comfort." The format for the day was simple. 2 heat races of 6 cars each, with the top 3 finishes from each heat advancing to the final race tomorrow as 5th-place qualifier. Olivia would start in the 3rd row of the first heat alongside Nate Rogers, the friendly rival who had qualified 6th. "The keys to this heat are the start and the first lap," Hayes instructed as they waited for the call to grid. "Don't try to win it in the first corner, but don't lose it there either. Hold your position, then pick your moments to advance." Warren checked Olivia's safety harness one final time, his hands steady despite his obvious tension. "Drive smart," he said simply, his eyes conveying everything words couldn't. As Olivia pulled onto the grid, she felt a strange calm settle over her. The nerves and pressure faded, replaced by a singular focus on the task ahead. 6 cars, 8 laps, and only 3 would advance. The stands were packed with a noticeable concentration of local supporters in the section nearest their pit area. Connor's Camaro sat on the pole position, with another professional driver beside him in the front row. The second row consisted of a seasoned veteran and a younger hotshot from Charleston. Olivia and Nate made up the 3rd row through her side window. Nate gave her a respectful nod. Unlike some competitors, he had shown no resentment toward her presence, treating her as just another racer. The starter approached with the green flag engines revved in anticipation, the collective sound vibrating through Olivia's chest. She gripped the wheel tightly, eyes focused on the lights above the track green. 6 cars launched forward simultaneously, a coordinated explosion of sound and fury. Connor took the early lead, but the second-place starter challenged him immediately. The cars door-to-door into turn 1. Olivia held her line, resisting the temptation to dive into gaps that weren't fully open as they exited. Turn 2, she found herself still in 5th but close behind the 4th-place car by lap 3. The field had stretched slightly, with Connor building a small lead. Olivia sensed the 4th-place driver struggling with his cars, handling his lines, becoming increasingly erratic. She positioned herself perfectly for the exit of turn 4, then powered past him on the straightaway, moving cleanly into 4th. In her mirror, she could see Nate following her through, relegating the struggling driver to 6th. "Good move." Olivia Warren's voice came through her radio. "You're gaining on 3rd. The 3rd place driver was the young hotshot from Charleston. He had raw speed but was burning through his tires with an aggressive driving style. With each lap, Olivia closed the gap, patiently waiting for his mistakes to compound. On lap 6 it happened. The hotshot carried too much speed into turn 3. His car drifting wide, Olivia didn't hesitate, steering the Mustang into the opening and powering through to claim 3rd place. 2 laps to go, came Warren's tense voice. "Just hold position. But Olivia wasn't content with merely qualifying ahead. The veteran in second place was visible, his car's handling deteriorating as the race progressed. Lap 7 saw Olivia gain significant ground closing to within a car length. As they took the white flag signaling the final lap, the veteran defended aggressively, moving to block Olivia's first attempt at passing on the backstretch. But in doing so, he compromised his entry to turn 3, taking a wider line. Then optimal Olivia seized the moment, diving to the inside with perfect timing for a heart-topping moment. The cars ran side by side through the turn, inches apart at over 100 met apart. The veteran tried to squeeze her down, but Olivia held firm. Forcing him to choose between yielding or crashing, he yielded. Olivia emerged from the final turn in second place, crossing the finish line just behind Connor. The local crowd erupted, their cheers audible even over the engine noise as she took a cool-own lap. When she pulled back into the pit area, a small crowd had gathered. Warren was beaming, and Hayes wore a smile that mixed pride with vindication. Even those who had doubted her were now offering congratulations. Connor approached as she climbed out of the car, his expression unreadable. "Nice driving," he said, extending his hand. "That last lap pass was unexpected." Olivia shook his hand, noting the firmness of his grip. "Thanks, your pace at the front was impressive. This was just a heat," Connor reminded her, something hardening in his eyes. "Tomorrow's the one that counts." As he walked away, Hayes moved closer to Olivia. "He's rattled," she observed quietly. "You weren't supposed to challenge him like that." Before Olivia could respond, Leonard Harper appeared with a local reporter in tow. "Miss Grant," Harper called out Jovi, "what a performance. May I introduce Sandra from the Gazette? She'd love a few words about your remarkable achievement." The next hour passed in a blur of interviews and congratulations. Everyone wanted to know about the mechanic's daughter, who had transformed the junkyard Mustang into a contender. Olivia answered questions politely, but kept technical details vague, mindful of Hayes' warning about giving away advantages as the D-second heat race got underway. Olivia, Warren, and Hayes retreated to their pit area to assess the Mustang's condition. After the hard-fought race tires held up, "Well," Warren noted, checking the wear patterns, "but we should replace the right front before tomorrow. It took a beating in those high-speed turns. Engine temperature stayed consistent," Hayes added, looking at the data they'd collected. "Your cooling modifications worked perfectly." Warren, the second heat proved eventful, with 2 cars tangling on the final lap, allowing Nate Rogers to claim the last transfer spot to the final. When Olivia caught up with him afterward, he seemed genuinely pleased about racing her again tomorrow. "My Mustang looks strong," he commented. "Never thought I'd see a classic American muscle car giving these modern machines such a run for their money. It's all about the fundamentals," Olivia replied. "Good engineering doesn't have an expiration date." As the day events wound down, Olivia noticed a change in how other competitors regarded her. The dismissive glances had been replaced by calculating stares. She was no longer the novelty act, she was a legitimate threat. The conversation turned to strategy for tomorrow's final as they secured the Mustang for transport. Unlike the heat race, the final would be 20 laps, requiring more tire management and possibly pit stops. For any mechanical issues, you should have a clear goal. Hayes advised Connor and a couple of others have more experience in longer races. If you try to lead from the start, you'll burn through your equipment. "So what's the play?" Olivia asked. "Patience," Hayes replied. "Run. Your race, not theirs. Stay close enough to capitalize if they make mistakes, but don't wear yourself out. Fighting for every position in the early laps." Warren nodded in agreement. Tomorrow isn't just about speed, it's about endurance and strategy. As they loaded the Mustang onto the trailer, Dylan Evans approached, looking nervously over his shoulder. "Quick word," he asked Olivia quietly. She stepped aside with him, curious about his return. "I heard some of Connor's team talking," Dylan said, keeping his voice low. "They're concerned about your car's speed in the straightaways." Connor mentioned something about how old-school engineering shouldn't be competitive. "Is that all?" Olivia asked, sensing there was more. Dylan hesitated. "They also mentioned your brakes, something about how vintage brakes aren't designed for racing conditions and how they hoped you checked them thoroughly." Olivia felt a chill that had nothing to do with the evening air. "Sounds like they're hoping for a mechanical failure, or planning one," Dylan suggested grimly. "I'm not saying they'd go that far, but I'd double-check everything before tomorrow's race if I were you." Why are you telling me this? Olivia asked directly. You could lose your job. Dylan shrugged. I became a mechanic because I love cars and racing, not to help someone win by cheating. He glanced back toward Connor's team. I should go before they notice I'm gone. Good luck tomorrow. You've earned your spot in that race, whatever they might think, as Dylan hurried away. Olivia rejoined Warren and Hayes, relaying what she'd learned. History repeating itself. Hayes muttered darkly. We're not taking any chances. The Mustang stays with me again tonight, and we'll do a complete brake system inspection before the race. I'll call Sheriff Johnson. Warren suggested let him know we have concerns about tampering. Hayes shook her head. Roy Johnson has been in Leonard Harper's pocket for years. He'd dismiss it as pre-race paranoia. She fixed Olivia with a determined, look, no, we handle this ourselves. I've got the security at my place, and we've got the skills to check every inch of that car. That evening they worked late into the night at Hayes's workshop, methodically inspecting every component of the Mustang's brake system. They found nothing suspicious, but the process gave them all peace of mind. As they finished, Hayes brought out 3 mugs of coffee. Time for a break. She announced, you need rest before tomorrow, Olivia. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, the Mustang gleaming under the workshop lights. Warren was the first to speak. You know, when you first brought that wreck home, I thought you were chasing an impossible dream, he admitted. Now look at her and look at you, second place in your first ever heat race. Olivia smiled, fatigue momentarily forgotten. We're not done yet. No. Hayes agreed. We're just getting started. Tomorrow's race will be harder. Connor and the others won't underestimate you again. They'll do whatever it takes to keep you behind them. Let them try. Olivia replied, newfound confidence in her voice. This Mustang has surprised everyone so far. Tomorrow, we show them what she can really do. As she drove home later, Olivia took the long route through Willow Grove. The small town was buzzing with unusual energy for a week. Night, the pit stop diner was packed, locals animatedly discussing the day's races. As she passed, someone spotted her and pointed. A spontaneous cheer broke out, patrons raising their coffee cups in salute. The town's support was touching, but also added pressure. For the first time, Olivia truly understood what Hayes had meant about racing being more than just driving fast. It was about representing something larger than yourself. Dreams, hopes, and the belief that sometimes, against all odds, the underdog could have their day. Tomorrow would determine whether Willow Grove's newfound racing hero could deliver on that promise. As Olivia finally fell into bed, exhausted but wired, her mind raced with possibilities. The heat race had proven she belonged on that track. The final would determine if she deserved to win. Her last thought before drifting off was of the checkered flag, waving the blue Mustang crossing the line first, and all those who had doubted her, forced to reconsider everything they thought they knew about the mechanic's daughter. Olivia arrived at Hayes's property just after sunrise, the morning air crisp and clear. Perfect racing weather. The significance of the day wasn't lost on her. Everything she and her father had worked for would be decided in the next few hours. Hayes was already in the workshop making final adjustments to the Mustang while softly humming an old country in tune. She glanced up as Olivia entered. Sleep at all? Hayes asked, though her knowing smile suggested she already knew the answer. A few hours. Olivia admitted, too much on my mind. Warren arrived minutes later carrying a box of fresh donuts and 3 large coffees. Thought we could use the fuel, he said. Setting everything down on a workbench as they ate, Hayes outlined their final strategy for the race. The start will be crucial. You're in the second row, which gives you a clean line into the first turn if you get a good jump. Connor and that driver from Virginia will try to break away early. Olivia noted, having studied her competition carefully, they both like to build a gap and manage it from the front. Exactly, Hayes confirmed. But 20 laps is a long race for these cars. Tires will degrade, especially on those who push too hard at the beginning. Your advantage is that the Mustang is more forgiving on its tires. We designed it that way. The discussion continued as they finalized every detail from tire pressures to fuel load. Warren had prepared spare parts for any eventuality, packed neatly in toolboxes. When they finally loaded the Mustang onto the trailer, Olivia noticed Hayes take a moment alone with the car, resting her hand on the fender, as if conveying a silent message. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes about how much this race meant to the older woman. The atmosphere at Willow Grove Speedway had transformed yet again. What had started as a local racing event now felt like a genuine spectacle. Cars filled the parking lots, and the grandstands were already crowded despite the early hour. A banner stretched across the main entrance. "Red Championship Final today," as they pulled into the competitors' area. Olivia spotted something unexpected: a group of young women wearing blue t-shirts with Team Grant printed on them. They cheered as the Mustang was unloaded from the trailer. Julie approached wearing one of the shirts and beaming with pride. "Surprised we had these made overnight. There's at least 50 of us wearing them today." "I don't know what to say," Olivia replied, genuinely moved. "You don't need to say anything," Julia assured her. "Just race like you did yesterday." The supportive atmosphere was dampened somewhat when Leonard Harper's sleek SUV pulled up nearby. He emerged looking immaculate, as always, followed by several representatives from his dealership and a camera crew from the regional news station, Miss Grant. Harper called out, approaching with his media entourage the woman of the hour mind. "If we get a few shots of you with your remarkable vehicle," the human interest angle is generating tremendous publicity. Before Olivia could respond, a step between them. "She's preparing for a race. Leonard photo ops can wait." Harper's practiced smile didn't waver. Of course, we wouldn't want to interfere with her concentration." To Olivia, he added, "Perhaps after the race, then win or lose, yours is the story everyone wants to hear." After Harper moved on, Warren muttered, "Convenient how he benefits regardless of the outcome." "That's Leonard," Hayes remarked darkly, "always playing both sides." Technical inspection passed without incident, though Olivia noticed the officials were more thorough with her car than with others. The message was clear: the outsider would be held to a higher standard. During the morning practice session, Olivia found the Mustang responding even better than the previous day. The overnight adjustments had improved its handling in the turns, while maintaining its strong straightaway speed. As she pulled back into the pit area, she spotted Connor watching her from his team's setup. Unlike the dismissive glances of days past, his expression now held focused calculation. She'd become a variable in his equation, a threat to be neutralized. Nate Rogers approached as she was checking tire temperatures. "Looking strong out there." He commented, "These guys didn't expect you to still be here." "Thanks," Olivia replied. "You're running well too." Nate grinned. "Not well enough to worry our friend in the red Camaro, but I'll take what I can get." He glanced over to where Connor was conferring with his team word around the pit, as he's not happy about a salvage special, keeping pace with his purpose-built race car. "His problem, not mine." Olivia responded with a shrug. "That's the spirit," Nate said, offering his fist for a bump. "See you out there, and hey, race hard, but race clean, all right? Some of these guys might not." The warning echoed what Dylan had implied the day before, reinforcing Olivia's caution. Speaking of Dylan, she spotted him working on Connor's car, his expression tense as he adjusted something under the hood. The final was scheduled for early afternoon. As start time approached, the drivers were called to a mandatory briefing where officials reviewed the rules and procedures. Olivia found herself standing next to Connor in the back of the group. "Nervous?" he asked quietly, not looking at her, focused. She corrected. A hint of a smile crossed his face. "You should be nervous. Yesterday was a heat. Today's different because you'll be trying harder to keep me behind you," she challenged. Connor finally turned to face her. "Because today separates the hobbyists from the professionals. 20 laps is a marathon compared to what you ran yesterday. Mistakes compound weaknesses, get exposed." "Sounds like you're the nervous one," Olivia observed before Connor could respond. The official called for their attention. Going over the starting grid, Connor had pole position based on his heat race win with Olivia, starting third in the second row. The field consisted of the top 3 finishes from each heat. 6 cars total for the championship race. After the briefing, Olivia returned to V. Warren and Hayes in an animated discussion with Sheriff Roy Johnson, whose patrol car was parked nearby. "What's going on?" she asked, joining them. Warren's expression was grim. "Someone tried to access the garage. Last night, motion sensors went off around 2 a.m. We have it on camera." Hayes added, "Couldn't see their face, but they were definitely trying to get to where we would have kept the car." Sheriff Johnson, a heavy-set man in his late 50s, looked uncomfortable. "Could have been a regular break-in attempt. Garages have valuable tools. The timing's awfully convenient." Hayes countered, not bothering to hide her suspicion. Well, nothing was taken, and your car is fine, the sheriff replied dismissively. Not much, I can do without more to go on after he left. Olivia turned to Hayes. You think it was someone from Connor's team or someone working for Harper? Hayes suggested the important thing is they failed, but it confirms what we suspected someone wants to. Make sure you don't win today as the call came for drivers to prepare. Warren pulled Olivia aside for a final word. His weathered face was solemn, but his eyes shone with pride. Whatever happens out there, he said, resting his hands on her shoulders, you've already accomplished more than I ever dreamed possible. Your mother would be so proud of the woman you've become. Olivia felt a lump form in her throat. I'm going to win this, Dad, for you, for the garage for Mom. Warren nodded, unable to speak for a moment. Just be safe out there. The prize money isn't worth risking yourself. I'll be careful, she promised, giving him a quick hug before pulling on her helmet. The drivers were introduced one by one to the cheering crowd. When Olivia's name was called, the local contingent erupted, their support nearly drowning out the announcer she waved. In acknowledgement, trying to stay focused, despite the emotional surge their enthusiasm triggered as she strapped into the Mustang. Hayes leaned in for a final word of advice. Remember what we discussed. Patience, early aggression, late let the race come to you. Olivia nodded, securing her helmet and focusing on her breathing, as the cars were directed onto the track for their formation lap. The 20-lap final was about to begin, and with it, the culmination of everything she'd worked for. The pace car led them around, engines warming and tires building temperature. Olivia ran through her mental checklist, visualizing the start and the critical first corner in her mirrors. She could see the other 3 cars behind her, all driven by experienced racers hungry for the win and the prize money. As they approached the final turn before the start, the pace car pulled off, leaving Connor to control the field speed. He maintained a deliberately slow pace until the last possible moment, then accelerated, hard catching the middle of the pack slightly off guard. The green flag waved and 6 engines roared in unison as the cars thundered toward the first turn. Connor took the early lead, but the second-place starter, a veteran from Virginia, stayed close. Through the opening corners, Olivia got a clean start, holding her 3rd position, while protecting the inside line from Nate, who was looking for any opportunity to advance. The first 5 laps unfolded with minimal changes in position, the drivers settling into a rhythm while gauging their competitors' strengths and weaknesses. By lap 6, Olivia noticed the Virginia driver pushing harder, challenging Connor for the lead. His aggression was costing him, though his car began sliding slightly. In the turns, a sign his tires were already starting to lose grip. Patience, Olivia reminded herself, recalling Hayes' instructions. She maintained her gap to the leaders, protecting her tires, while waiting for the right moment. That moment came on lap 8. Exiting turn 4. The Virginia driver's car slid wide, killing his momentum onto the straightaway. Olivia seized the opportunity, positioning her Mustang perfectly to power past him before the next corner. Good move, Warren's voice came through her. Radio, you're in second now, about 2 seconds behind Connor for the next several laps. Olivia methodically closed the gap to Connor. Her more conservative early approach was paying dividends while his tires were beginning to degrade. Hers still had life left. By lap 15, she was close enough to see the concentration in his posture through the rear window of his Camaro. Sensing her presence, Connor drove defensively, taking inside lines and corners to prevent passing attempts. The battle allowed Nate to close from behind, turning the final phase into a 3-car fight for the win. With 3 laps remaining, Olivia saw her opportunity. Connor's car was struggling for grip on corner exits, sliding just enough to compromise his acceleration exiting. Turn 2, she got a better run and pulled alongside him on the backstretch side by side. They raced toward turn 3. Neither willing to yield. For a heart-topping moment, their cars touched slightly, the contact sending a jolt through Olivia's steering wheel. She held firm, forcing Connor to choose between giving her space or risking a crash at the last possible moment. Connor backed off slightly, allowing Olivia to claim the inside line, and with it the lead. A roar from the crowd was audible even inside her helmet as the blue Mustang took the top spot for the first time. 2 laps to go. Olivia Warren's excited voice crackled through the radio. Just hold him off. Easier said than done. Connor immediately counterattacked, trying to pressure Olivia. Into a mistake. Into turn 1 they went. Olivia protecting the inside line while Connor looked for any weakness in her defense as they began the final lap. Olivia had a car-length lead, but Connor wasn't done. He tried a desperate move into turn 3. Diving to the inside from far back, Olivia saw it coming in her mirror and took a middle line, preventing him from getting fully alongside while maintaining her exit speed out of the final turn. They came Connor's front bumper menacingly close to the Mustang's rear. Olivia fled the accelerator, squeezing every last ounce of power from the engine Warren had rebuilt. With such care, the checkered flag waved as the blue Mustang crossed the line a mere half-car length ahead of Connor's Camaro. Olivia's victory lap was a blur of emotion. The grandstands were on their feet, the local supporters jumping and embracing as their hometown hero completed her improbable journey from mockery to triumph. She waved to the crowd, tears of joy streaming down her face inside her helmet when she finally returned to the pit area. Warren was openly weeping as he embraced her. Hayes stood nearby, her customary stoicism briefly abandoned as she smiled broadly at her pupil's success. "You did it," Warren kept saying, his voice choked with emotion. "You actually did it." "We did it," Olivia corrected, including both him and Hayes in her gaze. "I couldn't have done this without either of you." The celebration was momentarily interrupted. By Connor's arrival, he approached alone, his expression difficult to read. "Congratulations," he said, extending his hand. "That was impressive driving." "Thank you," Olivia replied, shaking his hand firmly. "You didn't make it easy." "That's not a race car," Connor stated, gesturing to the Mustang. "It's a 50-year-old street car rebuilt by a small-town mechanic and her father." A hint of respect crept into his voice, "Which makes what you just did even more remarkable." Before Olivia could respond, they were swarmed by media and well-wishes. Leonard Harper pushed through, his camera crew in tow, smiling broadly as if he'd been supporting Olivia all along. "The Cinderella story is complete," he announced dramatically. "Willow Grove's own Olivia Grant has shocked the racing world. We at Harper Automotive couldn't be prouder to have sponsored the event that launched this incredible new talent." Hayes snorted audibly at Harper's shameless attempt to associate himself with Olivia's success. The older woman edged closer, muttering, "Careful with him, Olivia. Leonard always has an angle." Sure enough, once the cameras were rolling, Harper smoothly transitioned from praising Olivia to promoting his dealership. "This victory shows what's possible when passion meets opportunity," he said to the reporter, "which is the same philosophy we bring to Harper Automotive." Giving everyday people access to extraordinary vehicles, Olivia endured the publicity with as much grace as she could muster, understanding it was part of the process. What truly mattered were the congratulations. From the townspeople who had supported her journey, Julie and her friends in their blue shirts, Norman Wright with tears in his eyes, and the countless others who had found hope in her unlikely triumph. When the interview concluded, Harper pulled Olivia aside, lowering his voice. "Remarkable achievement. Truly, we should discuss your future. Someone with your story and talent could be very marketable. Perhaps a sponsorship arrangement, racing other events under the Harper Automotive banner." Before Olivia could formulate a response, Leonard Harper Jr., a representative from the racing series, approached with an oversized check for $25, source of the prize money that would save Grant's auto repair. "Congratulations, Miss Grant," he said formally, presenting the check as photographers captured the moment. "An impressive performance today." As Olivia accepted the check, she caught Hayes's eye over the crowd. The older woman gave her a subtle nod, a gesture that conveyed everything words couldn't. This victory wasn't just about saving a garage or winning a race. It was about proving that sometimes, against all odds, talent and determination could prevail over privilege and resources. In that moment, holding the check that represented her family's future, and surrounded by the community that had embraced her journey, Olivia realized she'd gained something even more valuable than the prize money. She'd found her purpose, and in doing so had changed not just her own life, but the spirit of an entire town. The day after her victory, Olivia awoke to find Willow Grove transformed. Grant's auto repair was surrounded by cars, not customers seeking service, but admirers hoping to catch a glimpse of the Mustang and its driver. Several local businesses had changed their marquees to read "Congratulations, Olivia Grant," or "Willow Grove's champion." She stood at the apartment window above the garage, coffee in hand, watching the gathering crowd with a mixture of amusement and disbelief. Warren joined her, still blur-eyed but smiling. "Looks like you've got fans," he remarked. "It's surreal. Olivia admitted yesterday I was just a mechanic. Today I'm—" She trailed off, unsure how to define her new status, a racing driver. Warren completed for her a damn good one. According to Hayes, the phone rang for what seemed like the 100th time that morning. Warren answered it, his expression shifting from pleasant to guarded as the conversation progressed. When he hung up, he turned to Olivia with raised eyebrows. "That was Leonard Harper. Again, he wants to meet with us at 11 to discuss what he calls mutually beneficial opportunities." Olivia sighed. "That's the third call since last night. He's persistent." "I'll give him that," Warren conceded. "Maybe we should hear what he has to say. No harm in listening." Olivia wasn't so sure. Hayes's warnings about Harper echoed in her mind, but curiosity won out fine. But at the diner, not his dealership neutral territory, they spent the morning at the garage where Olivia carefully examined the Mustang for any damage from the race. The car had performed flawlessly, a testament to their meticulous preparation and Warren's decades of mechanical expertise. Several regular customers stopped by ostensibly for service, but clearly eager to congratulate Olivia. Norman Wright brought a donuts and insisted on taking a photo with her beside the Mustang for his social media. "You've put Willow Grove on the map, young lady," he declared proudly. "My nephew in Charleston saw you on the regional news last night at precisely 11. Olivia and Warren walked to the pit stop diner, which was unusually crowded for a Monday morning. The moment they entered, a ripple of recognition spread through the patrons, leading to spontaneous applause. Olivia felt her cheeks flush as she acknowledged the attention with an awkward wave. Harper was already seated in a corner booth, his silver hair immaculately styled as always. He rose to greet them, the perfect image of small-town charm despite his designer clothes and luxury watch. "The guests of honor," he exclaimed, gesturing for them to sit. "I took the liberty of ordering coffee for everyone." Julie appeared with a pot of coffee and 3 mugs, giving Olivia a quick wink of encouragement before leaving them to their discussion. "First," Harper began, "I want to officially congratulate you, Olivia. What you accomplished yesterday was nothing short of extraordinary." "Thank you," Olivia replied cautiously. "You've got natural talent." Harper continued, "The kind that doesn't come along often. Combine that with your compelling story, small-town mechanic taking on the pros with a car she rebuilt herself, and you've got something marketable." Warren leaned forward slightly. "Marketable? How exactly?" Harper's smile widened. "I'm proposing a partnership. Harper Automotive would sponsor you for regional events, more races, better equipment. A proper team. We'd promote your story as part of our brand narrative: determination, excellence, hometown pride. And what would you expect in return, Olivia?" "Yes, directly. Exclusivity," Harper replied without hesitation. "You'd race under our banner. The Mustang would carry our logos. You'd make appearances at dealership events." He slid a folder across the table. "The financial terms are quite generous. Take a look." Olivia opened the folder to find a formal proposal. The numbers were indeed substantial enough to not only save the garage but expand it significantly. "That's a lot of money," Warren observed, reading over her shoulder. "Because she's worth it," Harper asserted. "And because I believe this is just the beginning. There are larger races, bigger purses with proper backing. Olivia could go far beyond our little regional circuit." The offer was tempting, especially with the garage's financial situation still precarious despite the prize money. But something didn't sit right with Olivia and my father's garage. "What happens to that?" "It would become part of the Harper Automotive family," Harper explained smoothly. "Rebranded as a specialty shop focused on classic American performance cars, Warren would retain operational control." Of course, Warren's expression darkened slightly at the mention of rebranding the family business. Before either Grant could respond, the diner's door opened to admit Hayes, who walked directly to their booth with determined strides. "Hope I'm not interrupting," she said, though her tone made it clear she didn't care if she was. "Julie mentioned you were meeting with Leonard." Harper's practiced smile remained in place, but his eyes hardened. "Hazel, always a pleasure. We're discussing business, if you don't mind." "That's precisely why I'm here," Hayes replied, sliding into the booth beside Olivia. "I thought Olivia might want all perspectives before making any decisions." An uncomfortable silence settled over the table. Olivia cleared her throat. Mr. Harper has offered sponsorship for more races and a partnership with the garage. Hayes nodded slowly. I'm sure his offer is generous. Leonard has always understood the value of good investments. She fixed Harper with a pointed stare, though his partners don't always fare as well as he does. In these arrangements, Harper's smile became strained ancient history. Hazel, business is business, what does she mean? Olivia asked, looking between them. Hayes held Harper's gaze as she answered. 20 years ago, Leonard approached me with a similar offer. Sponsorship partnership with my small performance shop promised the moon and stars. That was a completely different situation. Harper interjected. Was it Hayes challenged 6 months into our agreement? He changed the terms, started exerting control over operations, insisting on hiring his people. When I pushed back, suddenly there were accounting discrepancies that threatened my shop's license. Eventually, I had to sell at a fraction of its value. Guess who was waiting to buy? Harper sighed dramatically. Hazel has always had a flair for revisionist history. Her shop was failing long before our agreement ended. I simply salvaged what I could from a bad investment. Warren turned to Harper, his expression now openly suspicious. And you'd have us believe you won't do the same to our garage. Times have changed. Harper assured him everything would be contractually guaranteed. Your position would be secure until it isn't. Hayes muttered. Olivia studied the proposal in her hands, weighing the opportunity. Against the warnings, I need time to think about this, she finally said. It's a big decision, of course. Harper agreed smoothly, standing to leave. Take the weekend, but remember, opportunities like this don't come along often in places like Willow Grove. He laid his business card on the table. Call me when you decide. I think we could do remarkable things together. After Harper departed, Warren exhaled heavily. Those numbers would solve all our problems, he admitted. At what cost? Hayes questioned. Your independence, your name on the business your father started. Olivia remained silent, considering both perspectives before she could respond. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Need to talk about Harper's offer. Important meet at the Speedway. Dylan curious. Olivia excused herself and drove to Willow Grove Speedway, which was quiet and deserted after the weekend's excitement. She found Dylan waiting in the nearly empty parking lot, leaning against his modest sedan. Thanks for coming, he said, glancing nervously over his shoulder despite the lack of anyone else around. I heard Harper approached you with a sponsorship deal. News travels fast, Olivia remarked. What's this about? Dylan hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. You should know I quit Connor's team this morning. Couldn't stomach it anymore after what happened. What did happen the night before the race? Connor sent 2 guys to your garage. Dylan revealed to tamper with your car. They're the ones who triggered the alarm. Olivia felt a chill despite the warm day. How do you know this? I overheard them talking about it when they thought no one was listening. They were laughing about how the Salvaged special would have been out of the race if they'd succeeded. Dylan's expression was pained. I should have said something sooner, but I needed this job and Harper was he involved. Dylan shrugged. I don't know for sure, but Connor answers to him and nothing happens on that team without Harper's knowledge. He kicked at the gravel beneath his feet. Just thought you should know what kind of people you'd be partnering with after Dylan left. Olivia remained at the speedway, sitting on the bleachers overlooking the now quiet track. The place that had been the site of her triumph now felt different. A battleground where more than just racing took place. She was still there. When Nate Rogers pulled up in his pickup truck, he spotted her and climbed the bleachers to join her. Thought I might find you here, he said, sitting beside her. Racers always come back to the track, something magnetic about it. Olivia smiled weakly, just thinking about Harper's offer. When Olivia looked surprised, Nate chuckled. Small town, remember? Plus, he approached me too after I finished third and I turned him down. Nate replied, My family's been racing independently for 3 generations. We don't have much, but what we have is ours. He gazed out at the track. Racing's changing, though, getting more corporate, more expensive, harder for independents like us to compete without backing. So you think I should take it? Olivia asked Nate. Consider this. I think you should decide what matters most to you. Is it winning more races or racing on your own terms? He stood to leave for what it's worth, what you did. With that Mustang that was real racing the way it used to be before it was all about money. And sponsors that evening, Olivia found herself at Hayes's farm, sitting on the porch with a glass of iced tea. As the sun began to set, she'd recounted her conversations with Dylan and Nate seeking the older woman's perspective. No surprise about Connor's team. Hayes remarked, "Some people can't stand being beaten fairly. What should I do about Harper's offer?" Olivia asked directly. Hayes took her time, answering, "I can't tell you that, but I can tell you this racing's in your blood now. You've tasted it and you won't be able to walk away." "I don't want to walk away," Olivia admitted, "but I also don't want to lose what makes it special. The garage, Dad. Rebuilding cars ourselves, then don't." Hayes said simply, "Find another way." "Is there another way?" Olivia asked. "Racing is expensive without sponsorship." "Who said anything about no sponsorship?" Hayes interrupted. "Harper's not the only game in town. Not anymore." Olivia looked at her questioningly. "I've been making calls." Hayes explained. "Your story resonated with a lot of people. Small businesses, parts manufacturers, people who remember when racing was about the cars and drivers, not corporate logos." She handed Olivia a notepad filled with names and figures. "It's not Harper money, but it's something enough to race the regional circuit independently. No strings attached." Olivia studied the list in amazement. "You did this for me, for us," Hayes corrected. "Some of us have been waiting a long time to see someone like you succeed, someone who represents what racing should be." About the next morning, Olivia and Warren sat at their kitchen table. The Harper proposal on one side, Hayes's list of independent sponsors on the other. Between them sat the prize money check, the immediate solution to their financial problems, but perhaps not the long-term answer. "It's your decision," Warren said gently. "Whatever you choose, I'll support it." Olivia picked up the Harper proposal, feeling its weight both literally and figuratively. Then she looked at Hayes's handwritten notes representing a different path forward. "Dad, what did Mom used to say about crossroads?" Warren smiled at the memory. "She said that when you reach a crossroads, don't just ask which path leads to success. Ask which path lets you look in the mirror and recognize yourself at the end of the journey." Olivia nodded, her decision crystallizing. "I think I know what to do." That afternoon, she walked into Harper Automotive for the first time since her victory. The dealership was bustling with salespeople showing vehicles to interested customers. Photographs from the race had already been prominently displayed, including several of Olivia. In Victory Lane, Leonard Harper greeted her warmly, ushering her into his plush office. "Olivia, I'm glad you came. Have you had time to consider my offer?" "I have," she confirmed, taking a seat across from his imposing desk. "It's very generous." "But," Harper prompted, detecting the hesitation in her voice. "But I'm going to decline," Olivia stated firmly. "Racing is important to me, but so is my independence, and my father's garage staying exactly what it is. Grant's Auto Repair." Harper's smile faded slightly. "I understand your attachment to tradition, but in business, evolution is necessary for survival. My offer provides security at the cost of our identity," Olivia countered. "I found another way. Smaller sponsors, independent. Backing it won't be as lucrative, but it will be ours." Harper leaned back in his chair, studying her with new interest. Hazel's influence. "I presume my decision," Olivia corrected, though. Yes, she helped with the alternatives. A long moment passed as Harper considered this finally. He nodded slowly. "You're more like her than I realized." Stubborn, principled, there was a hint of respect in his voice, despite his obvious disappointment. "I hope you won't regret passing up this opportunity." "I don't think I will," Olivia replied with quiet confidence. "But thank you for the offer." As she stood to leave, Harper called after her. "Olivia, the racing world can be unforgiving to independence. If you ever reconsider, my door is always open." Driving back through town, Olivia felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but it would be her own. She pulled into the garage to find Warren and Hayes waiting, their expressions expectant. "Well?" Warren asked anxiously. "I turned him down," Olivia announced. "We're going independent." Warren's face broke into a broad smile while Hayes nodded approvingly. "It'll be harder." Hayes warned, though. Her eyes shone with pride. "Every race, every sponsor, every repair. It's all on us." "I know," Olivia acknowledged, "but we built a winner. Once we can do it again." She ran her hand along the Mustang's fender, the blue paint still gleaming from its victory. This car, salvaged from a junkyard and transformed through skill and determination, had become more than just a vehicle. It was a symbol of what was possible when you refused to accept limitations imposed by others. So Warren asked, joining her beside the car, "What's next?" Olivia smiled, a mixture of determination and excitement lighting her features. "Next, we get back to work. The regional championship in Charleston is in 2 months, and this time they'll know we're coming." As the evening sun cast long shadows through the garage windows, Olivia Grant, no longer just a mechanic's daughter but a racer, in her own right began making plans for the road ahead. It would be challenging and uncertain, but after what she'd already accomplished, those weren't words that frightened her anymore. They were simply the next race to win 2 months after her victory at Willow Grove Speedway. Olivia stood in the paddock area of Charleston International Raceway, surveying the competition for the regional championship. The atmosphere here was different, more professional, more intense, with larger teams and corporate sponsors dominating the landscape. Her blue Mustang, though significantly upgraded since her first race, stood out among the purpose-built racing ions. Feeling intimidated, Hayes asked, joining her with a clipboard of notes from the morning's practice session. "Cautiously optimistic," Olivia replied, watching a team of mechanics swarm over Connor Wilson's newest Camaro in a nearby garage bay. "Our times in practice were solid 7th fastest," Hayes confirmed. "Not bad considering the resources these other teams have." Warren approached, wiping his hands on a rag after making final adjustments to the Mustang suspension. "Just saw the weather forecast, chance of rain tomorrow during the final." Olivia smiled at this news. Over the past 2 months, they had discovered that the Mustang's balanced chassis gave it an advantage in wet conditions where raw horsepower mattered less than control and finesse. "Works in our favor," she noted. "How's the engine looking?" "Perfect," Warren assured her. "Those modifications we made after the Ridgeway race really improved the torque we curve." The journey to this championship had been challenging but rewarding. Following her decision to remain independent, Olivia had competed in 4 more races across the region, securing 2 podium finishes and valuable championship points. The prize money, combined with Hayes' network of small sponsors, had kept them competitive while allowing Grant's Auto Repair to thrive with its newfound reputation along the way. She had gained a modest following, fans drawn to the underdog story of a mechanic's daughter taking on established racing teams with a restored classic car. Several local news outlets had run features on her, and a regional automotive magazine had even put the Mustang on its cover. Olivia Grant. The familiar voice drew her attention. Connor Wilson stood at the entrance to their modest pit area, his racing suit emblazed with Harper Automotive logos and numerous other corporate sponsors. "Connor," she acknowledged with a nod. "How's the new car?" "Fast," he replied simply. Then, after a moment's hesitation, "I heard you turned down Harper's offer." "News travels fast in racing circles," Olivia remarked. "It was the talk of the paddock," Connor confirmed. "Not many drivers walk away from that kind of money." "I didn't walk away from racing," Olivia clarified. "Just from strings attached to it." Connor studied her thoughtfully. "Harper wasn't pleased. He's used to getting what he wants." "I've noticed," Olivia replied dryly. An awkward silence fell between them, broken when Dylan Evans appeared behind Connor after quitting Connor's team. Dylan had briefly struggled to find work before Olivia offered him a position helping with the Mustang. His expertise with modern racing technology had proven invaluable as they adapted the classic car for higher-level competition. "The timing adjustments are complete," Dylan reported to Olivia, nodding respectfully to his former employer. Connor's expression tightened at the sight of Dylan. "So this is where you landed." "Where I belong," Dylan replied evenly. Connor seemed about to say more, but thought better of it. To Olivia, he said, "Good luck tomorrow. You'll need it against this field." As Connor walked away, Hayes muttered, still as charming as ever. "He's worried." Dylan observed, "Your times this morning were too close to his for comfort." The qualifying session that afternoon proved Dylan right in a stunning performance that sent ripples through the paddock. Olivia secured 4th position on the starting grid, directly behind Connor and ahead of several well-funded teams. The achievement drew attention from racing journalists who had previously dismissed her as a small-town novelty. "The girl can drive," one veteran reporter commented to Warren as they packed up for the day. "Not many could hustle a vintage Mustang around this track at those speeds." Later that evening, Olivia, Warren Hayes, and Dylan gathered at their modest hotel to review data and finalize strategy for the championship race. The atmosphere was focused but relaxed. They had already exceeded expectations by qualifying, so highly taking some pressure off the final result. Even if we don't win tomorrow, Warren pointed out fourth. In the regional championship is remarkable for our first season. We're not settling for fourth. Hayes countered firmly, we came to race, not to participate. Olivia smiled at her mentors. Competitive spirit, one step at a time. First lap, hold position. Middle segment, preserve tires, final push when others are fading. And if it rains, Dylan asked, then we dance. Olivia replied with quiet confidence. A knock at the door interrupted their planning session. Warren answered it to find Julie standing there. With several bags of takeout food supplies, she announced, entering with a flourish. I brought dinner for the team. Olivia hugged her friend tightly. You drove all the way from Willow Grove along with half the town, Julie confirmed. Norman organized a convoy of supporters. They're all checked into the budget motel down the street. You're kidding, Olivia said, astonished. Nope, there's at least 30 people. From Willow Grove here to cheer you on tomorrow. We've even got matching t-shirts. Julie pulled out a blue shirt with Grant Racing printed across the front and the silhouette of a Mustang on the back. The revelation that so many people had made, the 3-hour journey to support her, brought tears to Olivia's eyes. What had begun as a desperate attempt to save the family garage had evolved into something that united an entire community. Now I really can't lose, she joked, blinking back. Emotion you won't, Julia assured her confidently. Race day dawned gray and threatening with low clouds hanging over the Charleston circuit. The air felt heavy with impending rain. Exactly the conditions the Grant Racing team had hoped for. Olivia arrived at the track early, walking the circuit alone as she had before each race this season. The ritual helped her visualize each corner, each braking point, each potential passing opportunity. By the time she returned to the paddock, her mind was clear and focused. Despite the butterflies in her stomach, the pre-race ceremony was more elaborate than previous events, with driver introductions over the public address system and a small crowd of media surrounding the more prominent competitors. When Olivia's name was called, she was surprised by the substantial cheer that arose not just from the Willow Grove contingent, but from many others around the track. You've got fans, Hayes observed with a smile. People love an underdog. As Olivia prepared to climb into the Mustang, Warren pulled her aside for a final word. Whatever happens out there today, he said, his voice thick with emotion. This has been the most incredible journey of my life, racing with you, seeing you grow into the driver you've become. Your mother would be so proud. Olivia hugged him tightly. We're just getting started, Dad. The starting grid was a symphony of revving engines and tense anticipation as 20 cars lined up for the regional championship final. From her fourth-place starting position, Olivia could see Connor's red Camaro 2 spots ahead, his helmet turning occasionally to check the darkening sky as if on cue. The first drops of rain began to fall just as the pace car led them on their formation lap by the time they returned to the grid. For the start, the track surface was noticeably damp, creating challenging conditions that would test every driver's skill. The starting lights blinked out, and 20 cars accelerated toward the first corner through increasing rainfall. Olivia got a strong start, maintaining her position while carefully judging the reduced grip ahead. Connor seized the lead from the pole sitter, who slid wide on the slick track. By lap 5, the rain was falling steadily, creating small rivers across the racing surface. Several cars had already spun off, unable to adapt to the deteriorating conditions. Olivia, however, felt increasingly confident, the Mustang's balanced handling, allowing her to maintain speed where others were forced to slow. You're catching. Third place, Warren's voice crackled through her radio gap. Down to 2 seconds, Olivia could see the third-place car struggling ahead, its rear wheels breaking traction on corner exits with patient precision. She closed the gap lap by lap, finally making her move when the driver ahead took a defensive line into the hairpin, but braked too late on the wet surface. As the race approached its halfway point, Olivia found herself in third, with second place visible ahead. The rain intensity varied sometimes, easing to a drizzle before returning to a steady downpour. These changing conditions played to her advantage, while the professional team struggled to adjust their sophisticated cars. The Mustang's simpler, more mechanical setup provided consistent feedback that Olivia could intuitively interpret second place as having tire issues. Dylan reported over the radio, "Look for him to fade in the next few laps." Sure enough, the second-place driver began to struggle visibly, his lap times increasing. As his tires lost effectiveness in the wet conditions with 10 laps remaining, Olivia made her move, taking a wider line through the fast-sweeping corner to avoid the spray from his car, then powering past on the following straight. "Brilliant move!" Hayes exclaimed over the radio. "You're P2 now." 8 seconds behind Connor, the gap to the leader seemed insurmountable with so few laps remaining. But Olivia maintained her focus, pushing the Mustang to its limits, while respecting the treacherous conditions. Lap after lap, she shaved fractions over a second from Connor's lead. "Keep it up," Warren encouraged. "You're the fastest car on track right now with 5 laps to go." The rain suddenly intensified, causing visibility to plummet several more. Cars slid off the circuit, bringing out yellow caution flags in certain sectors through her rain-streaked windshield. Olivia could now see Connor's taillights ahead growing larger with each lap. 4-second gap, came Warren's tense update. "He knows. You're coming." As they began the penultimate lap, Olivia had closed to within 2 seconds. Connor's Camaro was struggling for grip, sliding noticeably through corners where the Mustang remained planted. The thousands of spectators braving the downpour were on their feet, sensing the dramatic battle unfolding. Entering the final lap, the gap was down to less than a second. Connor defended aggressively, taking inside lines into corners. Despite the reduced grip, Olivia bided her time, knowing that rushing an overtake in these conditions could end in disaster for both of them. Her opportunity came in the track's most technical section, a series of interconnected corners where car balance was critical. Connor entered too quickly, fighting his car's tendency to understeer on the slick surface. The Camaro ran wide, just enough for the Mustang to slip inside as they transitioned to the next bend. Side by side, they raced through the corner, inches apart. Despite the treacherous conditions, for a breathless moment it seemed neither would yield. Then physics made the decision. Connor's car, set up for dry conditions, couldn't maintain its line and slid fractionally wider. Olivia seized the advantage, completing the pass and immediately opening a small gap through the final corner. She drove with precision born of countless hours of practice. The Mustang's tires finding grip where modern racing slicks struggled as she exited the final turn. The checkered flag waved through the rain. Olivia Grant, the mechanic's daughter from Willow Grove who had been mocked for dreaming of competing with a salvaged car, had won the regional championship. Her victory lap was a blur of emotion and adrenaline, the Mustang's windshield wipers barely keeping up with the downpour in the stands. The Willow Grove contingent celebrated wildly, their blue shirts soaked, but their spirits undampened by the weather, when she finally pulled into Park Fermi, the designated area for top finishes. Warren was waiting, in the rain, not bothering to hide his tears of joy. Hayes stood nearby, her usual stoicism replaced by a broad smile. Dylan jumped up and down with excitement, high-fiving members of other teams who offered congratulations as Olivia climbed from the car. Soaked and exhausted but elated, the assembled media surged forward. Cameras flashed and microphones appeared, everyone wanting to capture the moment and her first words as champion. One reporter pushed to the front. "Olivia, you've just accomplished the impossible, winning the regional championship as an independent with a classic car against professional teams. What does this mean to you?" Olivia looked at her father, at Hayes, at Dylan, and at the crowd of supporters from Willow Grove who had believed in her from the beginning. In that moment, she understood that this victory represented something beyond racing. It was about proving that passion, determination, and authenticity could still triumph in a world increasingly dominated by money and corporate interests. It means, she replied with quiet conviction, that sometimes the car everyone mocked at the starting line is the one they have to respect at the finish line hours later, after the trophy presentation and media obligations. Olivia found a quiet moment alone with the Mustang that had carried her to an improbable championship, running her hand along its rain-washed fender. She felt a profound connection to the machine and all it represented. Connor approached his expression, a complex mixture of disappointment and respect. That was some drive, he acknowledged. In conditions like that, it came down to the driver, not the equipment. "Thank you," Olivia replied sincerely. "Harper will be doubling his offer after today." Connor predicted triple. "It may be," Olivia smiled. He can save his breath. Some things aren't for sale. As Connor walked away, Warren joined his daughter beside the championship-winning car, so he asked, "What's next for the regional champion?" Olivia gazed at the Mustang thoughtfully. "I was thinking, National Series next year. The competition will be tougher. The track's unfamiliar." Warren nodded slowly. "Considering the challenge will need more development, maybe some serious upgrades to keep pace, and a bigger team." Olivia added, "But still independent, still Grant racing. Your mother always said you had her stubborn streak." Warren remarked with a proud smile, "Never knew when to quit. I think I get it from both sides." Olivia replied, embracing her father, as the rain finally began to ease as they walked together toward the celebration, waiting with their team and supporters. Olivia reflected on the journey that had brought her here, from a desperate attempt to save the family garage to regional champion. In just 6 months, a transformation as dramatic as the one she'd performed on the Mustang itself. The path ahead would bring new challenges, higher stakes, and tougher competition. But after what she'd already accomplished, those prospects excited, rather than daunted her. The mechanic's daughter from Willow Grove had found her calling not just as a racer, but as proof that sometimes the most unlikely competitors make the most remarkable champions. And in a sport increasingly dominated by technology and money, Olivia Grant had reminded everyone that racing's soul had always been found in the connection between driver machine and the unwavering belief that impossible odds exist only to be overcome. The end up next too. More incredible stories are waiting for you right on your screen. If you enjoyed this one, you won't want to miss this. Just click to watch. And don't forget to subscribe.